Yeah, can do.
So you want to start us off?
Sure. Yeah, sure. My name's Nate Hintze. I use he, him, his pronouns. I'm director of student activities and the David Saul Smith Union. I've been at Bowdoin for, I think this is my 13th year. I started actually, had a brief, almost 2 years in career planning before jumping over to student activities.
That's right. That's right.
What I love about student activities is I really get to help students like create their ideas, and they come in with a vision, and I can either help be the glue to their idea or like help them kind of pull out their framework. And so it's really fun to see students get really passionate about something and then be able to help them achieve their goals. It's really fun to just be in a role where I get to have students get to work with students to have fun, and really do the things that they're passionate about outside the classrooms.
Absolutely. I think everyone feels that who witness you and your office's work. Anything you want to highlight as far as what your office is up to in
Yeah, so I mean, I think right now it's right up to fall break and we're kind of taking a breath. So we have, as an office, committed to doing a program the first 5 Fridays on campus to kind of help students ease into the academic year and provide a space for first years who are still trying to figure out what campus is like. So they don't have the pressure to like go to a party or not go to a party, that there's just something on a Friday that they can say like, oh, that's happening, we're going to go to that. And students are kind of easing into the year. The funding committee isn't quite up and running yet, so we wanted to make sure that we have programs ready for students, and we just kind of for a number of years kind of picked the Fridays for the first
yeah,
5, and it's been really fun to see everybody come back out and feel a little bit normal. And students have been coming out in large groups, and so it's been really fun to just kind of stand back and watch them have a really great time. And so right now we're in this transition period where funding committees is starting up, and so now it'll be us advising students more on what they want to do, opposed to what we've started with as like things that we think are important for them to start with, and now we get to really help foster their ideas.
that's great. Thank you for that, Nate. Before we get into the questions, I just want to quickly introduce myself for anyone who might be watching a video for the first time. So I'm Roland Mendiola. I use he, him pronouns. I serve as the director of counseling and wellness. And this project came about with just an interest in getting some voices out there to the community, particularly about mental health, but even more specifically about this sort of combination of issues related to culture, identity, mental health, and success, and the ways that those things might operate in ways that might that are related but might stay kind of hidden in our lives, how much those are actually connected. So again, much appreciation for
Yeah, you're welcome.
joining the conversation. So we like to start off with the question, did you grow up, Nate, whether that's in your family, community, friends, talking about mental or emotional health? And if so, how? And if not, in your mind, why not?
No, it wasn't something we talked about. Like, I'm 44. Back in the day, now I feel kind of old, but like it just wasn't a topic that we talked about. And I would say that I would classify myself as an anxious kid, and never like was never any thought of like how do you treat anxiety in my younger ages. Like as a child, it's just kind of something I coped with, and just kind of always accepted that I was just a little bit anxious, and never really any diagnoses or anything. It was just kind of like I was just labeled an anxious kid, and that was never a conversation. I can't even remember like thinking high school or college. I don't remember any support systems for any sort of mental health or well-being. And it wasn't really till Bowdoin that I started working here that we really got into the thought process of what is mental health and the stigma around like seeking support for your mental health.
Hmm. Were you aware at the time as a kid that you were sort of known that way or labeled?
Oh yeah. Yep.
Oh, you
100.
said.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. And I'm looking back at it now. I was like, yeah, I was a super anxious kid.
Right, yeah. Me too. Me too. Oh, it wasn't just shyness going on. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And I kind of
Um,
just like labeled as like I was an introvert. And it was like, I'm just, I play an extrovert at times at work, but really I'm an introvert. But it was like, maybe that's just kind of who I am. And that's just part of it. But it wasn't really like, you never really talked about what the root cause of that is or how do you
yeah.
help manage it.
I think there's a secret group of us on campus who play extrovert who aren't really at all.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then to your, however much you want to say, like to your understanding, either at that time or after, like why wasn't it like really talked about out in the open?
I just don't like, I don't really know why, but I mean, I grew up in the Midwest. I don't know if that's part of it, but I think
Yeah.
some of it was cultural. And
Yeah.
I don't think anybody talked about mental health in the 80s and 90s.
No,
And I think it's been like a creeping wave. And like at Bowdoin, it's been, it's been wonderful to work at Bowdoin and the previous director of the health of counseling, Bernie Hirschberger. And so like we talked about mental health, and it wasn't until like I will say, like, I have a 12-year-old son who has severe disabilities, and there is no support for parents when you have a disabled child. And I was talking with Bernie and really struggling with the anxiety around it. Like, how do you, like, when your child has seizures and you don't know how to help, how do you help yourself? And he
yeah.
hooked me up with a therapist who is the most 180 degrees opposite than me. But it was really great. It was great just to talk to somebody. And I think that was the stigma that like now, like it was like, you don't tell people you have a therapist. Like, well, like, it's so like my parents were like, what? Like, and I'm like, yeah, just go talk to this guy. And it's great to kind of like unload on somebody about, raising children with a disability and helping you think through that process of like, how do you manage that stress, how do you manage that anxiety, like how to get like, and he's been great to get me thinking differently than I normally would, and you get stuck in your path. And
Yeah.
he's been great to get me thinking about yoga and spirituality and meditation, and I've always been like, nah, whatever, I don't do that. And like it's
Yeah.
finally like, it's been 10 years and he's been, but it's like starting to really like sink in, and that's what really like that's been super helpful for me. And to talk about what is mental health now opposed to like what I wish I knew like as a child, which my parents knew, and what are those supports that I'm envious that kids have now that growing up just weren't available.
Yeah. Yeah. You raised so many important good points, not least of which the first one coming to mind is this one about parenting and like the challenges of parenting alone, let alone trying to find support around parenting can be its own challenge. And then you're talking about parenting of a child with disabilities and getting support around that. Like there's a lot there.
Yeah, it's a lot there. Yeah. And so like, you have to like, one, you just have to like slowly look for the best and advocate for your child, but then making sure that you are taking care of yourself. Because if you're not taking care of yourself, then you're not going to be able to take care of your children. If you're in a bad spot, like and stressed out, yeah, it reflects on your kids. And so, it's become really like exercise is something that long loathe, but that chance.
Really?
Oh yeah, but now it's like now I like it, now I love it, but it's taken a long time for that curve to really kind of accept it and feel like realizing how it makes me feel good. It like wasn't always that way, but now I've done it enough for a long enough time that if I don't do it, I feel that. And now like yoga is that new addition to my workout. That is a different way to like help me think differently. And like with Sylvia, my colleague, she's a yoga teacher, and she kept like I don't embrace anything quickly, it seems, and so like you should do it, and then I started doing it, and it's like it's everybody's so happy there, and it's just like it like all of a sudden I was like, this is amazing, like you go there and they're like, you just do you and you work as hard as you want. And if it doesn't feel good, don't do it. And I was like, oh,
You're like, what's the
that's
catch?
that's amazing. And you leave, you're like, I did this. I got a little bit of a workout. I feel better. And man, everyone's just so happy and
And
lovely
people are
there.
happy.
And so like I gotta get into this habit more. And so like for the last like 9 months, like really doing the practice and that mindset of coming in and being with that like really positive space
Mm-hmm.
has really helped like kind of help my mental health and being like, these are the things that I need. And I don't know if we like get to it, but like I'm a data is important to me.
Yeah,
And
yeah, yeah.
so with my fitness, I got hooked
Yeah.
up onto a Garmin fitness watch,
Sure.
and that's amazing. And that was like a
Right.
data piece that I like didn't realize I needed, but like it tracks your heart rate, your HRV, the variations between your heart, your stress levels, your fitness levels, and then it calculates your body, like your like kind of like it tells you how much energy you should have in a day,
Wow.
and by managing your stress you can make that number higher. And so like I want to work out, so I'm like actively checking to see my stress level, because I don't always consciously think that I'm stressed, but sometimes I'm like come out of a meeting like, oh gosh, I must have been really stressed in that meeting. And it has built-in breathing exercises in there,
Ah,
and so I'll just like click the button and do a 2-minute breathing exercise. And it's kind of like this now game to see like how low can I get like my heart rate down, my stress level down throughout the
dang.
day. And it's like a data piece that I didn't realize that I was going to obsess about until I got it. And I was like, this is fun. This is a really cool feature that helps me mentally to know
Yeah.
that like I need to go bed early tonight because I want my body
Right.
average to be high. So I really want to go do deadlifts tomorrow.
That's
And
really interesting.
really way my brain has been wrapped around like trying to do better fit with my fitness, but then how do I get my mental health and my rest and my sleep? And it gets really into like if you have like a beer, like if I have
Uh-huh.
two,
Right.
my sleep sucks. And I didn't realize that like if you have two
Yeah.
drinks, like my sleep is like terrible, opposed to like if I don't have any alcohol, like the sleep is great. And how much, and I don't think students realize this, and if I could tell all the students like how poor you sleep when you drink, and how that doesn't
Yeah.
help with your stress
Don't
because you're
realize
not
it.
actually getting good sleep. You're getting fake unrestless sleep, and be like, you all just need to like take it down
Take
and
down a
think about how
notch.
much you're sleeping with or without alcohol. And that isn't real sleep. And just being like, I didn't realize that if I had a beer, that all suddenly like my heart rate would be wacky for the night.
Yeah. That's brilliant. I had no idea like that level of data that can come through. Um,
Yeah, me neither. I was just like, I just wanted to see how far I run.
right. But no, you're getting all this immediate feedback about
Yeah, it's crazy.
how you're doing. That's that's really something. I'm thinking of someone in particular I want to hook up with this, including myself. But wow, I love that. And where's my mind? I'm thinking about so many different things with what you're talking about already, Nate. Can I ask this question?
Sure.
It's like a counseling question, but I feel like you named something that I'm like, oh, we could touch on that. So you were saying like, yeah, like when I was young, like all this just was not available, let alone the, the conversation, the awareness about it. So the counseling question is, if you could go back and talk to your young, anxious kid self, like what would you want to
I'd
express?
be like, we should be doing acupuncture.
You don't know yet,
You don't know that this is a
but
thing,
it
but we
sounds
should
really
really
weird.
be. This is like the needles are bad, but it's really good for you, and you respond really well to it.
No kidding.
Yeah, yeah.
Wow.
and and
Yes.
so yeah, they're like, it's like, and then like having someone to talk about, like having someone just to talk through your anxiety, what is the anxiety about, and really like, I don't know, like having had like a professional and when I was younger talking about what was causing that anxiety probably would have been really helpful. I'd be curious to go back to think back to that younger self and be like, and now really looking at what was that anxiety, what was causing that anxiety at the time, and
Yeah.
wishing I had a sense as uh, where that was coming from, but like why it just seemed to be kind of hardwired
Yeah. Yeah.
for that. And I think some of it's hereditary. Like I can see that in certain family members also being overly anxious about things, and I'm curious to like the genetics of anxiety and how much is that like something about being how you're hardwired, and how that is that passed down from generation to generation.
Yeah. Yeah. I resonate too with growing up in the Midwest and there being just an atmosphere of like people are friendly, people are hardworking, and very, I feel like pretty social. But at the same time, you're not talking about like deep dark things.
No, like it's not. No, you don't talk about any of those things. It's always very high level. You're good.
Yeah,
Yeah. But you don't like those like deep internal things. You just kind of push them away.
yeah. So you're already speaking to it like super well. But I'll ask the question, anything else you would say about how you think about mental emotional health now and how you got from before to now, how you got to like where you were before?
Yeah, I think it's just like I would say, like the path, a lot of the conversation and thinking about mental health was really it formed more when we had the masculinity summits, and what it about being masculinity and not being able to talk about feelings, uh, and why that still is in our culture, and wanting to like continue to talk more to the men on campus so that it is okay to talk about your mental health. It is okay to have a bad day. It is okay not to always be that strong man, and have times where you actually have to ask for help. And I think that is something that we still need to talk about on campus. And but that conversation years ago, and sitting around with that at the masculinity summit and talking with other
Yeah.
students and male students about like what that means is still something that resonates with me. That yeah, it's like to be like now an older guy that's like it's okay to talk about to somebody. It's okay to say you have a therapist. It's okay to know that you reached out. It's not a bad thing. You don't need to like hide that from people. It shouldn't be stigmatized, and like it's okay to go talk to somebody. It's healthy. It's healthier for you.
Yeah. Thank you so much for bringing this up. This is something yeah, like think about a lot. And I'd love to ask you too, like, did you notice this show up? I'm asking partly because of my own experience. Like, did you see it show up differently also for you when you became a parent? Because for me, like in raising young kids, it like takes on this whole other like level when I look at my kids, who my co-parent and I try to raise like in a pretty like I'd say like genderless, gender fluid, pretty kind of way. But like when you start to like really look at the media and the books and the shows and the movies out there, you're like, wow, like gender identity, like gender tropes and stereotypes are like alive and well.
Oh yeah, yep, yes, yeah. And you can't. It's how do you protect your kids from that is also fascinating, and like the shows that they gravitate towards, and you're like, I don't know. I get there's some adult humor in some of these movies, but still, like I'm
Yeah.
glad they don't quite understand why that's funny, or what that joke is. And because they're still super young, but it is like why do we keep like making the same things, and why do the cartoons and the children focused television shows still have a lot of those same stereotypes?
How do you see how that shifted for you? How did that happen? Particularly, if you don't mind, like sticking with this masculinity theme, like how did that shift for you as far as your about it?
Yeah, like I just think I started to notice it, and to I don't think you can't shelter your kids from it, but just like trying to uh, talk to them about it when it comes up. But it's never it's just harder. Like it's like you just want to like I don't know. I want to protect my kids the best I can, and help them the best that I can to make sure that they don't fall into some of the same things that were kind of in front of me when I was a kid.
Yeah, it's funny. I'm just pausing too, because I laughed a second, a few moments ago when you mentioned like that you like loathe working out, and I was like, no, really? Which just speaks to like assumptions like we make about like I interface with you like pretty regularly, don't know a lot about you, but on the regular, I'm like usually seeing you on campus, and I'm like, Nate's like pretty like together and fit, and like it seems like he's just like an active guy who like takes care of himself. And not that you're saying anything that you don't, but like it's refreshing to see the different sides, and that
Yeah. Yeah, it took a while. Like, I would say I am very fortunate to work where I do with Carla Nerdal, who is our admin. And
Mm.
when I started to get into it, she would put it on my calendar and
Oh,
she would like, Nate's working out at these times.
what?
Yeah. And she would drag me along and I'm like,
Wow.
oh, I'll go. And then it'd be really funny because she'd be like, Nate, President Rose wants to have a meeting, but it's during your workout time. Should I ask him to move it? And I'm like, no, you can't ask him to move it. And so like I will move my workout time, but it took a while, and it also took figuring out
Yeah.
like what type of workouts I liked, and it was really for me, the pandemic was good and bad. There was a lot of bad, and I wasn't working out as much, and I found it because I was worried about working out. Like one, the gym wasn't available to us, and two, working out
Yeah.
on a campus with a mask on wasn't great. And I got hooked up with a personal trainer locally, and he told I was like, I'm home, I'm gonna buy some things. So I bought some things, and then he designed about 18 circuits that I could do in my house.
Oh, that's brilliant.
And he kind of, I was like, I like this exercise, don't like this one, and he kind of adjusted it.
Tailored
And
it.
so it was like,
Wow.
yeah, these CrossFit type exercises are super challenging for me, and they're dynamic. And it was like, oh, that's kind of fun. And it kept shifting my brain to being like, that's something that's really challenging for me, and that I never really thought of or never really, like, I wasn't an athlete growing up. I was in the Midwest, like the basketball team was the six tallest kids, and I was short, and I didn't grow till college, and I went to big college. And if I was like, there's no way I could play football or baseball with these kids, they're all 10 feet tall. And so I just was kind of an average athlete,
Yeah.
but I never like deadlifted or do it any of the, but like he was teaching me how to do these things, and I was like, wow, it's just a different challenge for me mentally to do these things. And it's really spurred
Wow.
me to keep working at it, to like
Yeah,
figure
I
out
bet.
how I could do it better. And it's odd, but it's like it turned fun all of a sudden over the last year.
I love this. I mean, I both love hearing about your evolution with this, which is like quite inspiring as I'm trying to like get back to body stuff myself. But also like I also appreciate like how I feel like sort of the kind of convenience culture gets a bad rap all the time. Like, we just want things now and like very convenient to whatever situation. But actually, like it does help in these instances of like, I can do this thing in my home. Whereas other times I would just like kind of put it off and find excuses to not do it because there's a lot
Yeah.
that goes into.
Yeah, and it's like I had to, like, it's like that mental health piece. Like I have no problems now getting up at 5 in the morning and working out for the first hour of my day. And sometimes my son's an early riser, and he will come
Yeah.
down in the basement and he will play quietly in the basement or watch a movie, and I will work out, and we'll have
Yeah.
like kid togetherish time down there together. But like there's like I've learned to embrace the quiet of that morning and
Mm.
how it makes me feel better for the rest of the day. And I'm not an evening person. I have like embraced, like, I can go to bed at 8:30 if I want, right? Like that's not foreign to me to be like, I'm really excited about getting up and running 4 miles in the morning. So I'm gonna go to bed at 8:30 and get up, and like that it just starts my day differently and happier than if I were like, hi, I'm gonna just watch random crappy TV till midnight, and then I'm not gonna want to get up in the morning, and then I'm gonna feel kind of crummy because I
Yeah.
didn't sleep well, and two, I didn't get my workout in.
Yeah. Thank you for saying this too. I don't, I'm typically a 5:36 person. And when I stick to, I mean, I'm a big advocate for it. And I think when people can make that work, it really does something kind of special.
Especially in the summer, like running in the summer at 5 in the morning, everything is so still and
Yep,
so
exactly.
quiet that it
So
is
quiet.
like it's like in if like this get
It's kind of
the time of year, the
magical.
sun comes up and it's like, wow, what a great start to the day. Sun's up, there's dew, and it's like this is just amazing out here all by yourself.
There's magic that time of the day. So I already feel like, again, we're kind of bleeding into the next kind of questions, but so how do you think about success in your life, Nate? And how has that changed over time? And how does that also relate to your well-being?
Yeah, I would say my career trajectory has been odd, and I've had great parents who are super supportive of me, and it's never been driven by money. So I spent the first 10 years of my life working for Knowles, the National Outdoor Leadership
Mm,
School. I
yeah.
was making, it was an amazing job. Like I was working in their in-town staff, I was running a program, and then I was also a field instructor doing sea kayaking or fly fishing courses. And so I was spending a bunch of time outside, but it was like financially not a lucrative career, but it was all about like quality of life. And that has always been really important to me in terms of like what success is. Like, sure, you want your career, but I wanted to make sure I was having good quality of life, like to have that downtime, to have that time at that time with like now wife, and being able to do those fun things. And now like at Bowdoin, like it's like success in my job is making sure students are having a like getting to do what they want to do, but also that I am balancing my home and family life as well. Like it's super important to me. I love what I do. I love the summers that I get at Bowdoin. It really allows me to feel like having the time to be with my family and my kids when they're young is success for me, because it is amazing to be able to say that I spend a bunch of time with my kids in the summer, and I feel very fortunate to be able to do that. And I think I no longer think of success as just making a bunch of money, but like how much time do you get to spend with your family?
But it sounds like from pretty early on, that was a pretty established value that like success in life means quality of life, amongst other things.
Yeah, and I would say like my father, like he's a lawyer. I don't think he was ever super excited, like happy with it. I think he did it to provide for the family.
Yeah.
And when I went to work for Knowles, he was like, "You should do what you love,"
Mm,
and really made that like a focal point of like. And it kind of stuck with me as like my career was like I'm gonna do what I love, and I worked for Knowles for a long time, and it came time to a change, and I had a couple of jobs in between working at Bowdoin. But in those down times of trying to find the right job, I was just taking jobs and they weren't the right one, and I wasn't enjoying what I was doing. And then finally it was like that financial downturn of like '07 to '09. And I was like first one in, last one in, first one out a couple of times. And it was like, I need to stop what I'm doing and find where I want to work and where I would be happy working and focus all my intention on working there. And like Bowdoin was one of those places at the time. And it really became like I needed to find a place where I was going to be happy
yeah.
in my job and
Yeah.
be feeling supported in my job. And when I moving into student activities at the time, Alan DeLong, who's my boss, was
Right.
is a phenomenal human
Yeah.
and really helped me because he was with his family circumstances was really showing me like how important it is to make sure you make time for your family.
Yeah. 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 And that comes through really, really clearly, as well as like how apparent it is that you enjoy and care about the work you do here.
Yeah,
So,
it's like it's great. Like I care about our students. It's really great to support them, and I see them at their best, and sometimes I see them at their worst.
yeah.
And to be like, I want to make sure that you have the guardrails, and that we are going to help you be successful and safe.
Related to your story, I'm just curious, do you find at least a percentage of the students, because I feel like we see it in our world, students who might have gotten that message, like the one from your father, like find something that makes you happy, like maybe don't don't work too hard on, other things. And then the students get that message, but still in their mind, even though they have this self pressure to like really be successful in a certain kind of way.
Yeah, that's a good question. And I don't know, like I hear a lot from certain students that they need to go make a bunch of money. And I am always curious as to like I'd love to talk to their parents and be like, are you putting this, like, is that a real pressure that you are putting on them, or is that a perceived pressure that they are putting on themselves that they and I don't know the answer to that, but I do see students who are like, I'm going to do this thing, I'm going to go I'm going to work for this nonprofit. This is really meaningful and impactful for me. And then there are students like, I really just want to make a bunch of money and I'm going to go work in Wall Street, even though I have no desire to do it, but I want to make a bunch of money for my parents.
When it comes down to it for you, Nate, what feels like, I guess, from your own experience and view of things, like what would you say is the message you would like to impart on students and the kind of challenges that they deal with?
Yeah, there's a whole bunch. Like, first, I would like them to do half as much of everything that they're doing.
You do say that a lot. Yes.
I would love them. I love all students just to like take a step back and let at least one thing go. And I commonly see students who are running 2 or 3 clubs, or they're on 4 or 5 different working groups, and they're on teams, and I just can't imagine they're actually having any fun because they're always trying to manage their next thing, and their schedules are so packed that I would love for all students to let it go, like let some things go and trying to focus on the one thing that really makes you happy, and let the things go that aren't making you super you're just not enjoying anymore. I think there's this like culture of not letting something go because you don't want to feel like you failed. And so I see people who get thrown into running groups that they're not really super excited about, but they don't want to be the one that failed and said, oh, this group can't function anymore. And I keep telling people, like, it's okay, like the group may or may not come back at any point, so that should be just like it's going to be okay. Like somebody may pick it up at some point and they may not, and it's got to be okay. And continue to tell students like they can let something go. It needs to be a broad message to all of our students, and then it's like being able to, I think they all just need to tell each other how much they care for each other. I think that's something also we get kind of stuck in our own rut. And we don't, like, if you're reading an article, that's on New York Times or Wall Street Journal, how much it means. So you just text somebody and you say, I care about you, like how much that means to people, even though they may not respond. But like those types of little things, I think we just need to get back to just letting everybody know. And then what I see really from our students, like the first years, our sophomores there's so much energy with those classes, and to keep that energy with being super excited for being here and to like support each other. It's like, how do we continue to ride that wave of them, but also getting them to just slow down, do a little bit less. And I really would love to have an award for the one student who just did that one thing really, really, really well. Because I think that's what we need to highlight more, is somebody who just kind of found their niche of one thing, and not always reward the students that did 15 things. So it is super amazing and impressive that they did 15 things.
Sure.
But like, I don't always think that's the best way to highlight what success is on our campus.
Yeah, absolutely. Both things of finding ways to do less, to do the things that really matter to you or that you enjoy. And then this communication around what people mean to you. Or I totally agree. And actually, and the data I've seen totally supports it, whether it's like, I care about you, I'm thinking about you. And in fact, the best predictors of people in crisis, like acute crisis, even though there's like not a lot that we can sort of readily predict as far as like what's going to be the effective intervention. The most effective predictor of good outcomes is typically that, just consistent messaging to a person saying, you're on my mind, like, I care about you, you're not alone, like, let me know if you need anything.
Yeah. Yeah. And I would say, like, if I could have any more additional messaging, and I assume, like, I just don't see as much as, like, what, like, our students have a mantra: I work hard, I play hard, and how that play hard affects their stress levels. And I just think that we don't always, as a, like, college, or I don't think they just, like, how that how alcohol affects their stress level, and how, like, they drink to let off stress, but really that's not going to help them with that stress, because they're going to feel lousy the next day, their sleep's
It's not
bad,
going to help their sleep.
and that is like it's a downward spiral of you feel lousy, so you have a drink to help you relax and help you sleep, and it just makes your sleep worse and worse and worse, and the more you drink it, the longer it takes for it to leave your system. And how to get that message out to students that, yeah, you work hard, you play hard, but that has impacts for your mental health in the long term, and also in the short term. If you're really stressed, like, going out and having a couple of drinks is the last thing you really want to be doing.
I think there's a real question out there in the general culture, not only on our campus, but even I think for folks amongst our age, of like what it means to genuinely have fun, like really looking at, like, and trying to understand, like, what actually feels like fun.
Yeah. Yeah, yes, I feel like a little bit we have to reteach students how to have fun in large groups again. And it's interesting, and I'm somewhat of a passenger, and I just kind of want to see where things. I want to take my cues from students. I want to, one, help them. I want to remind them of things. I hate saying like, before the pandemic, we used to do this, but, like, sharing what used to be a thing, but some of the things weren't healthy that we were doing. And is it time to just say, like, I'm not going to bring that up anymore, and I'm just going to see where that goes. I'm curious I just want to see what students want to do and what they come forward with, and say, this is really important for us to have as our college experience, and then help make that happen. And I don't know, like, it's been so long since we've had a normal year, and for students to come forward and say, like, oh, this is what we would be excited to do. Like, okay, cool, let's do that.
I'm really curious what that'll look like too.
I mean, it's been interesting. Some of it was, like, students are coming early and in mass, like, masses of people, like, on time, which is way weird. And some of the things, and they're leaving early too. And, are, like, I will think back in my time here, there used to be a drive to program between midnight and 3 a.m. It was like, we need to do more later. And we kind of been working that way back, because I don't believe that's actually a thing. I believe that we need to be programming in that 7 to 10 air time frames, more around, like, how do you get people to not pre-game as much, get them out of their rooms a little bit. But now it is like, we did trivia, which was usually at 10 o'clock. We did it at 7 o'clock because the students wanted it at 7 o'clock. And that was like, and it was wildly successful at 7 o'clock. And it was like, that's typical. You're still at dinner at that time. And so I'm curious to see, like, what times are the new special time or things. And I've got an email from Colby. They have a fall concert, and their fall concert's at 8 p.m., which is even more unheard of, to bring a large act and have them play at 8 o'clock at night. And usually it's like nothing before 10. None of those shows are before 10. And to say, like, our huge fall show is at 8 o'clock at night was like, where am I? What's going on? And I was like, okay, I mean, this is the new normal. It's great. We get the show over, everybody goes to bed early, and we have a better Saturday. A more productive Saturday.
And get up and go for a run.
Exactly.
Nate, this is perfect. Thanks.
Thanks, Roland.
And I appreciate you even more than I appreciated you.
Anytime. Happy to do it. Anytime. Anything you need, I'm more than happy to.
Likewise. Thank you.
Yeah, welcome.
Yeah, thank you for doing this. And please, anyone out there, reach out to Nate about any of the things we're talking about. And Will you send me the Garmin watch
I
information?
will. Yeah. Yeah. I will
I
do
would
that.
love that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Cool. I'll send
Thanks,
along.
Nate. Have a
All
great
right.
rest of the day. Happy fall break to you.
Yeah, thanks. You too. All
All
right.
right.
See you later. All right. Bye,
All right.
Roland.